mentioned, tributes have been pouring in from around the world following the passing of AmaZulu King Goodwill Zwelithini. The king succumbed to COVID-19 related complications at Durban Albert Luthuli Hospital in the early hours of the morning after a long illness. He was 72.
The Zulu nation is in mourning. The sudden death of King Goodwill Zwelithini sent shockwaves throughout the country. The king was admitted to hospital more than a month ago. At the time, Nkosi Mangosuthu Buthelezi, in his capacity as traditional prime minister to the Zulu monarch and nation, officially stated that the king had been admitted to hospital so that doctors could monitor his glucose levels. Over the month, Nkosi Buthelezi continued to update the nation on the king's health.
His Majesty entered hospital to attend high glucose levels. He was not and is still not frail in any way. Even this morning, he is fully mobile and is continuing treatment for unstable glucose. His doctors preferred that he be treated in the ICU in order to attend to this thoroughly.
When Nkosi Buthelezi made the announcement of the king's passing on SABC's television and radio platforms, he confirmed that the monarch had died from COVID-19. Due to the king's illness, some annual traditional ceremonies had to be postponed, and for the first time, the king was unable to attend the opening of the KwaZulu-Natal legislature. As the nation grieves, the king's body will be taken back to one of the palaces in Kwanongoma.
The king's body will be conveyed to the palace, hopefully this afternoon, where we hope he'll lie in state for a couple of days so that anyone in the nation can do so. But of course I must warn that this happened at the most difficult time because of COVID-19. In other words, that we should observe all the protocols.
Meanwhile, the provincial government has suspended all government programs in respect to the king. Details of his funeral are yet to be announced. Ayanda Mhlongo, SABC News, Durban.
Right, SABC News reporter Simphiwe Makanya is at the Royal Palace in Kwanongoma. Let's take you live there. Simphiwe, I know you've certainly been there for a greater part of the day since the news broke. What has been happening in the past couple of hours?
So we have seen quite a number of people coming here at Kwakhetho Mthandayo Royal Palace to pay their respects to the king and send condolences. Behind me are some of the close family members from the royal family, as well as just local people who have been gathered here actually since the early hours of this morning when the news broke of the king's passing. He has been described, Tepiso, as a king who actually thrived to see the province of KwaZulu-Natal being unified, to see the people of KwaZulu-Natal being unified. You'd recall, of course, Tepiso, that one of the key issues that the king actually played a role in this province in particular was the issue of trying to actually establish talks to end the political violence which engulfed this province in the 1980s and late 1990s. Those are just some of the things that have been said by a number of people here as they continue to pay their last respect and send their condolences to the royal family. Let's listen in to what the king's brother, Prince Mboniso Zulu, had to say about his late brother, the king.
It's difficult to express how you feel about this, because this has been a tragic thing that has happened to us, especially to the royal family and to the entire Zulu nation. So for me to say, I don't have words really, how do I feel? Because when I heard this news early this morning, it was so devastating. from where I'm sitting and from where I'm standing, where we are at KwaKhetho Mthandayo, where the king was born. Because he grew up from Kwadlamashasha, his grandfather's palace. And then our father, the late King Cyprian, also came here at KwaKhetho. When I'm looking at you, I'm seeing the part where our king, towards his coronation, cars with, and the warriors and everybody that were during the day of his coronation in 1971. By that time I was still young. So it brings me all those memories at my young age. I even remember when I was at my mother's house at Evuna. During school holidays, the king will pick me up from town right up to the palace. I played the role of being a young boy from him, but because I regarded him as my brother or the father to me. You know, when you are inside the car driven by the king, it wasn't a tar road here. So, you know, when you're a kid, you'll stand up just enjoying the movement. And when the aircon flashes you with the king driving you, I remember those memories.
Now, Simphiwe, just tell us about, obviously...
So that's the king.
Who survives the king and what the reaction has been from his wives and children.
How can you put it to the mighty king?
At the moment, we have not been able to speak to the wives of the king, the princesses, but we do know that Prince Mangosuthu, who is the person tasked with communicating the message from the royal household, has been saying that since this morning that the family remains shocked. They are saddened by the passing on of the king. Of course, he had been in hospital for about a month, but there were indications, according to the statements that were being issued regularly by Prince Buthelezi, that he was recovering until obviously the early hours of this morning. The provincial government, Tepiso, if I may add, has also actually issued a statement saying that tomorrow they will be coming here to pay their last respect to the king. Tepiso?
All right, Simphiwe, I know that Inkosi Buthelezi has also been at pains to say that this is going to be a process, that communication will be made on the interments of the remains of the king, but just take us through what's going to happen over the next couple of days.
What we do know, Tepiso, at the moment is that the king's body is still in Durban, where he departed. In terms of the funeral arrangements and other logistical plannings, the royal family said that tomorrow they will have a meeting with various stakeholders, wherein they will then be in a position to tell the nation as to what is going to be happening going forward in terms of the funeral arrangements, and also the protocols that have to be followed during that those funeral arrangements. At the moment, we do understand, obviously, that people are still shocked, people are still very saddened by the passing on of King Goodwill Zwelithini. Here, where we are, Tepiso, that's been the key message coming from those who have been coming throughout the day to pay their last respect. Tepiso?
All right, thank you very much, Simphiwe, and of course we'll continue speaking to you, Simphiwe. Simphiwe Makanya is my colleague out there in KwaZulu-Natal, where the king's body is at the moment, and people are passing on their respects. And just to have a look at this, Simphiwe Makanya, who put together this biography of the late king.
King Goodwill Zwelithini kaBhekuzulu, eldest son of King Cyprian and Queen Tomo. He was born at St. Benedictine Hospital in Kwanongoma on the 27th of July in 1948. He was educated at the kaBhekuzulu College of Chiefs. He took over the kingship of the AmaZulu nation after the death of his father, King Cyprian Bhekuzulu Solomon, in 1968. He married his first wife, Princess Sibongile Dlamini, at the age of 21. In 1971, he was installed as the 8th monarch of the AmaZulu nation. The traditional ceremony at Kwanongoma was attended by at least 20,000 people. During his reign, His Majesty revived a number of Zulu customs as part of his contribution in the fight against HIV and AIDS. He reintroduced male circumcision, which had been stopped by King Shaka. It's scientifically proven that male circumcision decreases HIV transmission. His Majesty also revived the reed dance, which encourages girls to abstain from sex before marriage. His reign was peaceful, as opposed to his forefathers who fought colonial wars, but it was marred by political violence. 20,000 of his subjects died during the ANC and IFP conflict in the 1980s and 90s. The land question also came into play during his reign. On the eve of the 1994 elections, the apartheid government signed an agreement that put nearly 3 million hectares of land in KwaZulu-Natal under the Ingonyama Trust, with the king as the sole trustee. This led to some of his subjects taking the trust to court, claiming that they had been tricked into signing leases on their ancestral land. His funeral arrangements have not been finalized. Simphiwe Makanya, SABC News, Durban.